Equilibrium. Equal, staying the same. Equal things are the same. If you and I have equal-sized cookies, we have cookies that are the same size. When a population is at equilibrium, it's not changing. And this was the thing where I wanted to see if you could kind of get to the fact that if it's not changing, if the distribution of traits in that population isn't changing over time, hey, guess what? It's not evolving. It is not evolving. Now, we already said this. You already saw this slide. So when does a population not evolve? In biology, in genetics, what we talk about is Hardy-Weinberg Equilibrium. And this is there's an actual mathematical equation. It's an algebraic equation. We could calculate numerically whether or not a population is at equilibrium with this. Filling it in? But what we have found, what has been described, is that populations don't evolve. The distribution of traits and genes tend to stay the same if all of these conditions are met. Now, I got some questions about number 4. We'll talk more about that later. But in general, if you're meeting all these conditions, the population is probably not going to be evolving. So what are the conditions? Well, no major mutations. That's a big one. No major mutations. No groups of individuals leaving the population or entering the population. Nobody in or out. The population has to be sufficiently large. We're going to talk about what happens in small populations a little bit later. Mating is random. Well, that's a weird one. We'll talk more about that when we're going to talk about mating today. Not humans, another species. And there's no selection occurring in the population. No natural selection. What's the other kind of selection? Like what we do with horses and dogs and cows and pigs and sheep and chickens. Artificial selection, yeah. Selective breeding. So those 5 things have to be true in order for a population to not evolve. How often do you think that happens? Seems like a lot of conditions to put on something. That seems like a lot of conditions. Does it ever happen? Good question. So if these 5 things have to be true for a population to not evolve, let's look at the flip side of that. What will cause a population to evolve? So here's New Jersey, here's the Delaware Bay, here is Delaware, and this is New Jersey. And this is all water, this is the bay, and this is the Atlantic Ocean. And there is a magical little place, and I'm telling you all about my secret place, so, don't go invade it all at once. Right here, called Cape Henlopen State Park. It's a state park. It's on the Cape. It sits between the Delaware Bay and the ocean. You can camp there. It used to be $30 a night, which is expensive camping if you're from Ohio, but you cannot stay any place that close to the ocean for $30 a night. Can't do it. And that's no matter how many people you can cram onto your campsite. So, this is not a hotel room. Yes, you're hiking down to the bathhouse to pee and shower, but that's okay. You're staying a quarter mile from the ocean in a tent. Here's my tent. Okay, so you camp in there. It's fantastic. You can hike a quarter mile and walk down to the ocean and swim. You can walk a quarter mile the other direction and go to the bay to swim. Wonderful. And guess what else loves to go there? Horseshoe crabs! Tens of thousands of them. No. Good question. We're gonna show. No. Good question. We're gonna talk about that. So every year, thousands upon thousands of horseshoe crabs come from the Atlantic Ocean and they swim back to the Delaware Bay, where they mate. Aww. And then they die. Many of them. So, and their mating, we got to see several mating pairs last summer. So when you walk out in the Delaware Bay and it's really, really shallow and you're walking through the bay, la 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 la, it's up to your ankles or your knees and you feel bunk, 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 bunk. Because they're big and awkward and slow and clumsy and they bonk off your ankles. Bonk, bonk, bonk. And what's even better is if you stand still a little while, then you'll feel across your feet. Oh, did I show you what their belly looks like? No, it's on your feet, not your shoulders. They can't reach that high. They look a lot like a trilobite. Yes, exactly. They've got all these little walking legs. Now you have to be really careful because they're an awesome special species. And if when they go zoop across your feet, you go ah! You're likely to smash them. Hi. You're likely to step on them and kill them, and you should not do that. These horseshoe crabs are so cool. They've actually, we should do a whole unit on horseshoe crabs sometime. That would be cool. That's a good unit to do. So horseshoe crabs have actually been rather important to humans for a lot of reasons. We used to extract their blood for use in some medical procedures. I don't remember what now. I should look that up again. Yeah, I know. It saved lives. Horseshoe crabs have saved human lives. I know. When they mate, this is so cool. So the females are larger than the males, as is true in a lot of species. And these big, giant females swim up to shore, and they get up in the surf zone where the water's kind of pushing on them. And then the little tiny males, with their legs, these little walking legs here, grab onto the back of her shell and hold on for dear life. And once they get up into the surf zone, she starts shooting out a string of eggs. This is like frogs. And the male just hangs on the back and shoots sperm over the eggs. Now, this is a big competition to see whose sperm will fertilize those eggs because, you know, he whose sperm fertilizes those eggs gets to pass on his genes. So you will sometimes see one giant female with 2 or 3 littler males hanging, because one male will hang off her and then the next male will hang off him. And there'll be this little chain of horseshoe crabs and they're all shooting sperm on the eggs because they're also in the water. It could get washed away. It could get washed away. So it's a little bit of luck. Anyway, they're these amazing, beautiful, wonderful creatures. They are so cool. Their stomach, I'll show you where their stomach is. This is so cool. Their stomach's actually in there, in between their legs. So if you go to the nature center at the state park where we camp, if you show up at 2 o'clock on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, they'll let you feed the horseshoe crabs because they've got a touch tank. And the naturalist will flip them over and give you a little piece of raw clam. And you set it right there. Have you done this? And their little feet come out and they kind of maneuver it and then they pull it into their little, oh, it's so cool. They're amazing. Yeah. Yum. Like that. So these amazing, wonderful creatures, how long is a long time? You people have been alive, what, 15 to 17 years on average? Yeah. Somewhere in there. Now, individual horseshoe crabs have varied lifespans, but do you know how long horseshoe crabs have looked, well, just like this?
Is that big? Like really big?
That's, I mean, the biggest female that I've ever seen on the beach down there is about this big.
Whoa.
And I have at home,
The males are this small?
No, the males range, I mean, they can be like dinner plates. The female, I mean, some of the females are like big frying pan size. Some of the males are like dinner plates or little salad plates. And they vary. Like, I've seen little tiny baby ones.
They've had male and female.
Okay. Nice. They have looked like that for 450 million years. They have not changed. So on our timeline, I really need to straighten this thing up because it's all crooked. But, you know, where do you come in? You come in like, what, like the width of a human hair from the end? Like modern humans come in pretty close to the end. Horseshoe crabs have looked like horseshoe crabs since somewhere back here. Huh, you think you're cool? 450 million years. Take that. Unchanged. More or less unchanged. So, would we tend to say that populations of horseshoe crabs are probably at something pretty close to equilibrium? Yeah, they're not changing a whole lot. Now, one other species I want to mention If you were at the museum with me yesterday, you saw some of these. If you weren't, you may have seen some of these in a ditch near you. This picture was not taken when dinosaurs roamed the earth. Shocking, I know. What is this? Horsetails. You got it. Horsetails, Equisetus. It's a genus of plants that have looked pretty much the same for about 350 million years. In the displays at the museum with the dinosaurs, there are horsetails in with the dinosaurs because there were horsetails existent on the planet that dinosaurs munched on and walked around and pooped on and stomped on and laid down on. Yes, yes, and the ginkgo, and I couldn't get a good picture of a ginkgo leaf. Ginkgo below, but we have one out back here. In the spring, we'll go out and pet the dinosaur tree. Just because, you know, we can. But these are species that haven't changed a whole lot in a very long time. We would start to think that they were probably at genetic equilibrium. Now, you know, I've got maybe 3 examples of species that are at that kind of long-term equilibrium. Could there be more? Yeah, there probably are. That might be a research topic if somebody's doing one of the bigger research projects, if they're thinking about, yeah, but I want the leaf, the individual leaf picture. If somebody's doing one of the like in-depth kind of research and reading projects for the year, species that are pretty unchanged might be a good topic. So if this is what it takes for a species to not change, what shakes up that equilibrium? What forces a species to change? Well, let's look at the flip side of that, shall we? What forces a species to change? What shakes it up? Well, big mutations. Not little ones, but major mutations. You get some big mutation that comes along, that can really force a population to evolve because you get an option that wasn't there before. Migration. And you have a big group of organisms that come into a population or leave a population. Something called genetic drift, which we will start to talk about next week. Selective mating, when organisms use some kind of criteria, any kind of criteria, to pick who they mate with. It's not random. And any kind of natural selection. And we're going to talk more about the different directions that natural selection can push a population in. Anybody here have chickens? Raise your hand if you live with chickens, if you have chickens at home. Okay, or used to. If you've ever had chickens in the family. Okay. My chicken percentages are small this year. Usually I have more people who've had chickens. Well, yeah, that happens. Under crowded conditions, that happens. And sometimes just in a bad flock. Okay. Well, remind me, oh chicken people, to talk a little bit about some artificial selection topics and some chicken stuff with our lovely little barred rocks there. So here's my question for you. You wait. You see if I answer your question. Write your question down. 10,000 years ago, every single human on the planet, what color were their eyes? Brown. Well, you have changed, but you have an older variation of human eye color than some of the rest of us. So they were all some form of brown. And anybody who thinks there's only one color of brown eyes is sadly mistaken. My husband has got the prettiest, like, dark milk chocolate eyes. My friends, one of my best friends' little boys, his eyes are a brown that is almost copper colored. They're like the color of a fox. They're so pretty.
Yeah. My dad has, his eyes are really dark, but if you look closely, there's a little bit of red around his pupils.
Yes.
They change.
Oh, we're going to talk about that. No, they don't, but they look different. They look different. They look different under different conditions. Yes. If you're in my club, which is the what heck color are your eyes, what do you write on your license? What are your eyes? If you're in that club. Okay, so 10,000 years ago, all humans on the planet had brown eyes. Now, here's a question. Who here has ever looked into the eyes of a human infant? Human infant under like 6 months of age. Okay. Do I have to assign homework to anybody?
You guys can come look at my
Okay. I was going to say, if you are going to approach people's babies in the store and stare at their eyes, you should always ask permission from the parents first. Explain that you're a biology student. This is homework and you need to look at their kids' eyes, because if you don't, they're going to call the police. Just fair warning for just being weird around their baby. Yeah. So you should warn them or ask them. Most human infants' eyes are some shade of blue at birth. Even human infants who end up with like dark chocolatey brown eyes. Okay? No matter the final skin color, no matter the final eye color, no matter the final hair color, most humans are born with bluish eyes. That's because the pigments are chemicals that control color, the pigments in the eye don't develop immediately. So there are pigments in your skin, there are pigments in your hair, there are pigments in your eyes. Now the skin and hair pigments are usually more or less developed at birth, but the eye pigments don't set up immediately. So usually by the time they're 6 months to a year old, the eye color is more permanent. But most human babies are born with bluish eyes. So imagine 10,000 years ago. Imagine 10,000 years ago, the first human whose eyes never went dark. Whoa.
Oh, that makes sense.
We're not quite sure what to do with that one. Should we leave her out for the wolves? Do you think she's cursed? Maybe we should sacrifice her. I'm not really sure. But she's really, her eyes, have you seen her eyes? They're like clear. I'm imagining myself as a human 10,000 years ago, seeing the first blue-eyed human, and being pretty darn freaked out about it, I would guess. So, okay, here's the thing. Did you guys do Punnett squares for eye color somewhere in middle school? And big B is brown, and little b is blue, and big B, little b is brown, but they carry a recessive, and then they will have, and then all these people have brown eyes, and then if these people have a baby, then they will have brown-eyed babies and blue-eyed. Okay, it's a bunch of crap. A bunch of crap.
We spent hours of this.
Yeah, I know. So here's what we do. Now he knows. Here's what we do. We grossly oversimplify things. We lie to you because it's too complicated when you're younger. The older you get, the more we will tell you the truth. Wait till you get to college. Some crazy truth about all kinds of things. But this is a gross oversimplification. Totally oversimplified. It's not bad information. There are things that work like that, but eye color is not one of them. Eye color, I'll leave that up there with my big BS through it. Baloney. Eye color is what we call polygenic. What does poly mean? What number? More than one. I shouldn't have said it that way. It's more than one. You know, multiple, many. Poly means many. Things that are polygenic, do you think they're controlled by one gene? No, they're controlled by multiple genes. We'll talk more about this when we talk about genetics, but eye color is polygenic. So if eye color was not polygenic, we would not get the varieties of eye color we get. Is it as simple as blue or brown? No, you've got hazel, gray. I've got weird flecks of yellow in my eye. You know, like, I mean, I don't know what to write on my license. Some of you are in the same club. Like, I don't know, do I write green? Do I write gray? Do I write hazel? I don't know, what the heck is hazel? You know, seriously. If it were that simple, we would not see that kind of variation. It's more complicated. There are multiple genes involved. Are you in my what the heck color are your eyes club? Yeah, I think you are. Now, while it is more complicated than a single gene that gives you green or blue, or I'm sorry, brown or blue, there is one single gene that gives you a shade of pure blue. So you get gene mixing, so you get multiple shades of brown, multiple shades of green and gray and whatever else. You get multiple shades of blue. But the individual gene that was responsible for the first human whose eyes did not turn dark as they aged, for the first blue-eyed human, it was a single gene mutation. It happened in northeastern Europe about 10,000 years ago. They have pinned it down pretty well doing DNA analysis. They can look at rate of mutation, and they can look at how far a gene travels. And so every single blue-eyed mutant in this room, every single blue-eyed mutant in this room has that one individual as an ancestor. They have that common ancestor. So blue-eyed mutants, you can have a family reunion for all the blue-eyed mutants. Now, can you be more closely related to somebody who has brown eyes? Yeah, you can have a blue-eyed sibling and a green-eyed sibling and a brown-eyed sibling. You can have a whole pot of mixed sibling eye colors. That's not the point. If you have blue eyes, we know for a fact you descend from this one individual. One individual. So how do we take one individual with one mutation and it becomes so common that what, I'd say 25% of this room has blue eyes? Yeah. A quarter of the human population in 10,000 years? In some parts of the globe, in other parts of the globe it's not as common. Here's the big secret. I'm going to post an article tonight that talks a little bit about how a mutation like that becomes so common. Once you have the blue-eyed mutation and it spreads, do you change the distribution of a gene in a population? Yes. Is that evolution? Yes. Introducing a big mutation is evolution. If you've ever had a crush on somebody, and if you've never had a crush on somebody, I'm going to assign homework. You have to go home and develop a crush on somebody. Okay, I don't care if it was in kindergarten and you thought, you know, whoever Cutie Pie was just adorable and you like to share crayons with them. That's a crush. No, you don't have to, but you know, that's a crush. That's an interest. It's a romantic inclination. Whether you're in kindergarten and you want to like share your milk with them, or you're in high school and you might want to share more than your milk. Anyway, you might want to share a bus seat. You might want to share, I don't know, a lunch table. I don't know what you want to share. I don't want to talk about it. Anyway, wow. We'll talk more about that. Hey, tomorrow when you walk in, you're going to be doing work.